Antiretroviral therapy, or ART. It's one of the biggest medical breakthroughs of our time, no question. It totally flipped the script on HIV. But this isn't some simple one-and-done fix. For anyone living with HIV, it's the beginning of a really complex, lifelong journey. A journey where sticking to the plan almost perfectly is everything.
I mean, think about it. Before 1995, getting an HIV diagnosis was pretty much a death sentence. Then this thing called HAART, highly active antiretroviral therapy, came along, and it was revolutionary. All of a sudden, this disease that was seen as fatal became something people could actually live with for the long haul. It was just a massive, seismic shift. But let's pause on that word manageable. What does that really mean day to day? It's so much more than just taking a pill. It's this daily commitment, a constant dance with potential side effects, and this relentless fight against a virus that is always looking for a way to outsmart the medicine. So what does that journey actually look like? Okay, to really get our heads around this, we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at how doctors and patients even know if it's working. Then we'll get into some of the surprising side effects. We'll also talk about why treatments sometimes have to change. And then we're going to hit the absolute core of it all, adherence and the scary thing that happens when the virus starts to fight back. So, first things first, how do you know if the ART is even working? It's not just about how you feel. The real story, the proof, is hidden in your blood, and there are two key tests that tell us what's going on inside. So on one side, you've got the CD4 count. Think of that as a report card for your immune system. But the real star of the show, the most important number, is the viral load test. This tells you, straight up, how much of the virus is actually in your blood. A healthy immune system is great, for sure, but a low viral load, that is the clearest sign that the medication is winning. It's the ultimate measure of success. And that's the bullseye. The primary goal is to get that viral load so low that it's called undetectable. We're talking fewer than 50 copies of the virus in a milliliter of blood. That's the win. That's the sign that the treatment is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But getting to that undetectable goal, well, it isn't always a smooth ride. And here's where it gets kind of weird. Sometimes starting a therapy that's meant to save your life can actually make you feel worse, at least for a little while. It's a really strange and honestly probably pretty unsettling experience. You start this medication that is supposed to make you better, and all of a sudden you feel sicker than you did before. But this isn't a sign that it's failing. In a weird way, it's actually a sign that your immune system is finally waking up and getting back in the fight. And this whole phenomenon has a name. It's called Immune Reconstitution Inflammatory Syndrome, or just IRIS. The best way to think about it is like this. For a long time, HIV basically put a blindfold on your immune system. It couldn't see other infections that might be hiding out in your body. When ART comes in, it's like ripping the blindfold off. Your immune system suddenly sees these old invaders and launches this massive all-out attack, which causes a temporary flare-up. And this breaks it down perfectly. Before ART, your immune system's too weak to even notice those hidden infections. Then, ART is like a power-up. It gives your immune system its strength back. But that new power leads to this huge internal battle that can make you feel really sick, even though it's actually a sign you're on the road to recovery. Wild, right? Now, this journey with ART isn't always a straight line from point A to point B. Sometimes that first treatment plan just doesn't work out, and it needs to be adjusted. This isn't a failure, not at all. It's just a normal part of figuring out the right long-term strategy for each person. So there are really three main reasons for a change of plans. First, the side effects just might be too much for someone to handle day in and day out. Second, the drugs themselves might be causing other health problems. That's called drug toxicity. And third, and this is the most concerning one, is when the viral load starts creeping back up, even when someone is taking their medicine correctly. That's virological failure. And that brings us to the most critical, the most important, the absolute non-negotiable part of this whole journey. The one thing that more than anything else decides whether this works or not: adherence. 95%. Let that number sink in. That is the bare minimum. That's the level of adherence you need to keep the virus suppressed. Not 90%, not 80, 95. Anything less, and you are playing with fire. And adherence isn't just, remembering to take your pills most days. It is about military-grade precision, the right dose at the right time,
every single time. No exceptions. It is a relentless commitment, day after day, for life.
And hitting that 95% is incredibly hard. I mean, think about the real world. There's just the sheer exhaustion of it all. They call it treatment fatigue. There's the stigma that might make someone hide their pills. Life gets in the way, work, travel. The side effects can make taking the pills a real chore. And then there are the practical things, like running out of meds or not being able to get to the clinic. These are the human struggles behind that number.
So what happens when life does get in the way and adherence dips below that crucial 95% line? Well, you give the virus an opening, an opportunity to do what it does best: adapt, mutate, and survive. This is how it happens. This is how the virus literally learns to outsmart the very drugs that are supposed to stop it. And it's not just a minor setback, it's a complete game changer in the fight against HIV, and not in a good way.
The lock and key analogy here is perfect. Your ART medication is the key, and the virus is the lock. But HIV is messy. It makes mistakes when it copies itself, creating slightly different, mutated versions of the lock. Now, if you miss a dose, the drug levels in your blood drop. That gives one of these new mutated locks a chance to survive and multiply. And because your key doesn't fit this new lock anymore, this resistant version takes over. And just like that, your old medication is useless.
And this is what's at stake. Look at these numbers. They are brutal. At 95% adherence or higher, you have an 81% chance of keeping the virus undetectable. That's great. But drop to 80%, that's just missing one dose every 5 days, and your chances plummet to 36%. And at 70% or less, it's basically not working at all. The margin for error is razor thin.
And here's the really scary part. Drug resistance doesn't just knock out one drug. It can wipe out an entire class of drugs, which severely limits a person's future options. But it's even bigger than that. This new, tougher, resistant strain can then be transmitted to other people, creating a public health nightmare that affects all of us. Which brings us to this really powerful way of thinking about it. Managing HIV isn't just a mechanical process of taking pills. As this quote says, it's about having a lively relationship with your medicines. It's a partnership, one that needs you to be engaged emotionally and intellectually. It's both a science and an art. So all of this leaves us with a really big question. Knowing just how hard this journey is, how can we as a community, as friends, as family, better support this incredibly complex, lifelong relationship with health? How do we help make that demanding partnership just a little bit easier for people to navigate? That's really the question for all of us to think about.